A teacher at my school said, you know, what do you like, what are you thinking of doing? I said, out of the blue, I think I want to become an artist. And so he said, think about that. He said, you know, there are a lot of artists, but they don't make a lot of money. He said, why don't you become an art teacher? And I thought, an art teacher? He said, well, look, you like school. He said, you like art, you like school, become an art teacher. That was the real trigger that actually made me end up going into university, RMIT, to study sculpture and fine arts. So that's where it all began. And even though I had a long teaching career, I always thought of myself as a sculptor first and a teacher second. A lot of my sculpture was influenced by the environment that I lived in. So when I go to other countries, I'm very interested in the landscape, I'm interested in the people and the dwellings and the natural phenomena. It's different costumes that people wear, different habits that people have, and different ways of life. So it's the environment that I live in. All the variations within South America, within Central America, within North America, and then cities like Rome and the Italian countryside, on the ancient parts of those civilizations, and the same with Morocco, North Africa, you know. And people play an important part when you're there. That's part of the motivation too, and the stories that these people, why have they created these beautiful structures? Why have these structures come about? And it's to do with people, their beliefs and their cultural systems. The first time I was in Peru, waiting in Puno, going into Bolivia to Cochabamba, there was a man waiting at the bus stop with me for the bus to come, and it was just a place on the side of the road, and he made a little apertura, not very big at all, just a little stack of stones. And I asked him about this, and he told me that this was him leaving part of his soul in the landscape where he'd lived. So this was another dimension, and I thought this was really special. And so I was very conscious always of aperturas, and made aperturas in different places I went to. Some of these pieces that are behind me, they're good examples of the first aperturas I made. Rather than making them out of actual stones, I created these synthetic stones, which I made through a process of modeling them in clay, and then joining them together physically as one piece, making a mold of them and casting them so they look like stone. These pieces became part of my life in many ways, and I was constantly making aperturas. In my garden, I make aperturas because you're digging in your garden, you find stones. So ultimately, what do you do with stones? You stack them up and you make an apertura. I like this idea and that metaphor, and I see them as a metaphor of life. You have to have a balance in your life, and you've got to balance elements in your life so you have a good life. Don't be in a rush to do the first thing that comes into your head. Play with the idea, try it in different ways. It's like sometimes you do a drawing of something, turn it on its side and look at it. Maybe things are better balanced. The other part of the process too is you're not working on one thing only. You know, sometimes you've got to wait for things to dry or set. So you're working on something else. And often what you're doing in one thing influences what you're doing in the other. So that's part of the creative process. But really it's about observation, and you learn from other artists. And I love teaching art history because you learn so much from looking and analysing the work of other artists, painters, sculptors, printmakers. You learn from all of them something. So I was 72 years of age when I had my first solo exhibition. And the main reason for that was it was the first time that I really had a collective body of work together that I could show. I'd exhibited before in group shows, but you know, sometimes that's only 2 or 3 pieces that you have in a group show, or 5 pieces in a group show. But to have that volume of work, to have a one-man show, that was a highlight for me. That was a very emotional sort of time, because I'd sort of finally had this solo exhibition. All my pieces are telling a story, and that's probably where I'm at as an artist. I like telling stories. They mean something to me. So I visit a place and I learn something about that culture, and I try and do something that's representing that to me. And hopefully that communicates and connects with other people. They see the story. That's a big part of what I do, telling the story my way.